it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you all some of the books that I've read recently. But before I get into that, this is a reminder that down below in the description there are resources of what you can do to support the Black Lives Matter movement, and if you live in the United States, for some petitions that you can sign to fucking save the USPS postal system because it's a hot mess. What's going on here? Mess. The first book I'm going to be talking about today is Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. In this book, we're following our main character Jam, who lives in a world where there aren't any more monsters. But when Jam helps a creature come out of one of her mother's paintings, she starts realizing that there might be monsters in her world after all. I rated this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. One of the main things that I enjoyed about this novel was the fact that it read kind of like a fable. It very much relied heavily on metaphor, on the allegorical, and I think that's pretty obvious even when you look for the summary of this book, because I think when you read that official summary, it's pretty obvious that this book is very much trying to say something, and I think it says it well. Another thing I thought this novel did really well was bridge the gap between middle grade and YA. This book is labeled as YA, but our main character reads pretty young, but that makes sense within the context of the story, because since in the world that Jam lives in, there's no more monsters, there's no one abusing anyone, the people in power are all trying to do good for society, basically almost all the wrongs of the world have been righted, so it makes sense that for her growing up in this world where everything is fine, she would be naive, that she would not know how to pick up on certain clues, that she would not be as worldly as she may be if she had grown up in the world as it was before. But that just means that the story does read relatively young, but I don't think that's something that works against the novel. I think it works in favor of it. And I think it's always important to have those novels that help readers change from one age group to another age group. So I thought that was great. I think personally, like what often happens with me, I think the only thing that kind of frustrated me about the book was that it felt a bit too short. By the end, stuff was happening pretty quickly, and I would have preferred to spend more time with it because the topic was so serious that it kind of felt like it was rushing to the finish line, and I didn't want it to rush to the finish line. Still, I don't think it's a terrible thing. Obviously, I still rated it 4 stars because mainly it was fantastic. The last thing of note I want to say about this book is that I listened to it as an audiobook, and the narrator was fantastic. He really brought you into this world, into this story, made you feel like you knew Jam and you understood where she was coming from. I don't know. He brought something very magical to the way that this story was told, and I appreciated that. So overall, I would definitely recommend trying out this book. The next book I'm going to be talking about is A Lesson in Thorns by Sierra Simone. In this novel, we're following our main character, Poe, who as a child developed this obsession with this like grand estate that one of her friends had. Well, not one of her friends had it. The parents of that friend had it, but the point remains. She had this obsession with this estate, but part of it was because she had this group of friends and they were all very close over one summer. So this estate, Thornchapel, kind of followed her into adulthood. She wanted to recapture that magic of that summer she spent with that group of friends as a kid. So in this novel, we follow her as she is brought back into Thornchapel because the now owner of Thornchapel wants to do some remodeling. So she's brought there to work as basically the librarian of the house because there's a huge library that needs to be categorized, organized, and all that other fun stuff. So that's kind of why she's there. But what's truly driving the novel is that eventually the main character and this group of friends are going to engage in some ritualistic sex, I guess we can call it. So that's really the part that makes this book spicy, let's call it that. Anyway, so I rated this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun reading this book. Honestly, even though it took me, I think, almost a week to read it, I felt like I could not stop reading it. I was addicted to it. I was glued to the pages. It's honestly a miracle to me, the fact that I didn't read it more quickly, because truly I could not stop thinking about it. While I was reading it, after I had to put it down because I had to work, I was constantly thinking about this book and about how much I wanted to pick it up again and continue the story. Now, if I sit down to think more objectively about it, it's not the best book out there. It's not the most well written. It doesn't have the most cohesive plot. It's mostly really just characters being horny. Like, that's the plot. The true plot here is that all the characters want to be together and they're trying to find an excuse to make that happen. So yeah. That being said, even though I thoroughly enjoyed this novel, even though I had truly a blast reading it, because the tension, the way Sierra Simone built tension in this book and the way she gradually built to that first sex scene was fucking incredible to me. Even though I loved that, even though it was great, I'm not gonna pick up the sequel of this. This is the first book in a series and I don't think I have the willpower to pick up the sequel. I've read too many negative reviews of it, and I know that one of the things that happens is that basically one of the characters thinks that he's related to another one of the characters, but he still proceeds to have sex with that character despite thinking they might be related, and that's just not my thing. The incest trope is not my thing. It's a very big hard no for me. So I don't think I can read the sequel. Even though, again, it's a trope, I'm pretty sure it will be proven false. I'm pretty sure eventually they'll figure out that they're not really related, that it doesn't really matter. But the implications of not telling the person you think is your sibling, that you think that they're your sibling and you still have sex with them, that's too much for me. Too much. So I'm just gonna stay in my happy place where I only read the first book, even though there's not enough resolution in what happens in that first book. It's fine. It's fine. I'll just stay with the one. The next book I'm going to be talking about is The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. I don't even know how to describe this book, honestly. It's essentially a sci-fi novel where aliens have taken over Earth, but they're trying to basically make Earth a vacation home to their alien species. So they're trying to develop this vaccine that allows them to use the bodies of humans without killing the humans per se. And so we're following the alien that's developing this vaccine, who starts forming a bond with a human character because the alien really, really likes human music and the human main character loves books. So they kind of start bonding over their love of both these things created by humans. So I rated this book 3.5 stars. I had a complex relationship with it. There were moments that I really, really enjoyed, and there were other moments that I was not super into. Two of the biggest issues I had with this novel are connected. One of them is that there are too many books and song lyrics references in this book. Like, too many. It's overwhelming. It needed to be toned down. Like, I understand that because the main characters like music and like books, it makes sense to have references to music and books, but this needed to tone it down like by 20 at least, because it was too much. The other issue that is not really the book's fault, but it still affected my reading experience, was the fact that I listened to this as an audiobook and there are song lyrics in the book, and the way the narrator read the lyrics in the most deadpan, emotionless voice ever just did not work for me. It was so bad. It was so bad. I'm pretty sure that also factored into me feeling like there were too many references to music and books, because the way this man delivered those song lyrics was just... No, I don't know why they did it that way. I don't know who thought it was a good idea, but it was not. It just was not a good idea. The other issue I had with this story is that it went by way too quickly. It felt like we could not take a moment to rest. Things just happened one after the other, after the other, after the other, and the characters were moving from place to place to place to place, and I was just like, can we please slow down? I just couldn't take that breakneck speed. That's not my jam. I'm not really into stories that move super quickly, or at least if they do, this quite didn't work for me. The pacing was just strange. The main thing I loved about this story though were the characters. Our main character, who's an alien, Morris, is like the cutest boy in this world. I mean, he's not really a boy, he's an alien, but the point and the sentiment remains. He is the absolute cutest. And the cutest thing about him is how unabashedly in love he is with our female main character. He loves Ellie so fucking much, and it is such a blessing. I cannot put it to words how warm it made me feel in my heart how much he liked her, because it was just the sweetest thing on this world. Okay, the sweetest thing on this world. So yeah, mainly those were the things that made it kind of difficult to get into. Too many references, but at the same time the characters were really nice and really cute and sweet. And I did forget to mention that the romance is kind of insta-lovey. Morris and Ellie kind of fall in love a little bit too suddenly and too fast. But I found it very, very cute because they were both very, very earnest about it and kind of just so wholesome about the whole thing that I was just in it with them, okay? I was like, yes, you are the cutest ever. Please, thank you for this. I needed it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend giving it a shot. Maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't, but I definitely think that it has enough pros and cons to make it a worthwhile read. The last book I'm going to be talking about is Cinderella is Dead by Kaylene Bayron. In this book, we're following our main character, Sophia, who lives in a world that is dominated by the Cinderella story. In this book, it has been 200 years since Cinderella died, but all girls are required to attend a ball to find a husband. The problem is our main character doesn't want to find a husband because she's gay as hell. And so we follow her as she discovers the truth of the Cinderella story and how exactly it is that the man who is in power has maintained the power of this story and used it against women. So I rated this book 3 stars. I was kind of lukewarm about it. Although I enjoyed myself while I was reading it, it didn't quite get to me. Like, I was expecting it to have more of an impact on me, to be more memorable, but I was left kind of about it. I think one of the reasons for that is the pacing of this story. Once again, we have a story where things move pretty quickly, and that makes it easy to read the book. It makes it compulsively readable, but at least for me, it makes it hard for me to attach myself to the story. So ultimately, even though it was a fun ride, it was not a ride I would want to get on again, I guess. To be fair though, I did enjoy what the author did with the Cinderella story. I did enjoy that she kind of reversed the roles and kind of really truly reimagined it. She made Prince Charming a villain. She made it so that the story we know is kind of a lie. It's kind of a cover-up of what really happened. So I did enjoy that, but I did also feel like the villain of the story was exaggerated. I felt like it worked in the novel, but I was expecting kind of more from it. I don't know. That's why I rated this 3 stars, because although I enjoyed the story and was getting what the author was trying to do, it didn't quite hit the way I was expecting it to. I've expected it to land much harder, and it didn't. I still would recommend picking it up though, because I have been seeing people who really enjoy the story and who did feel like the message of the story landed really well. So it's just a thing of taste. If you like fast-paced books, if you like books with a message, then I think maybe this could work better for you than it did for me. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you've read any of these books, please let me know down in the comments below what you thought of them. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you would like to follow me on any of my social media, I will leave the links to that down below in the description. But for now, see you next time.